You're listening to Seattle Real Estate Podcast.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean Reynolds. I'm the owner of Summit Properties Northwest, Reynolds and Kline Appraisal, and your host of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. What we're talking about today is Seattle going to become the next Detroit? Detroit Rock City. That's an amazing song from Kiss. I was a card-carrying member of Kiss back in the day. I think like third grade, maybe fourth grade. I had all the Kiss albums. I subscribed via RCA Records to their Record of the Month. I collected all the Kiss albums. That was an amazing time for music. That was albums, pretty cool. Cassettes really weren't quite all there yet. Not everybody released their music in cassettes. In the early 70s, we were still kind of working off 8-track tapes in people's cars, some of that going on, but albums, they were always the real deal. So I had every Kiss album. Those were good times, fond memories of Detroit Rock City. But now with all this nonsense going on in Seattle, a lot of people in the comments of YouTube, they state, Seattle's going to become the next Detroit. It's happening. Seattle's going to become Detroit. And I always say, no, it's not. Look, you got this, and this factor. And so today when I saw an article in the Seattle Times, where special to the Seattle Times, the guy is talking about how his pointing out all of the the businesses that are in flux and are having a really tough time in downtown Seattle, that it kind of looks like Detroit, people leaving, that he did an entire article, and that's what we're going to touch on today, saying Seattle is not Detroit, not happening. So that's what we're going to cover. Before we jump into that, the music scene in Detroit has always just been phenomenal. It's got that Motown sound. That's where it's kind of emanated from. You've got Aretha Franklin. You got Anita Baker. You got Stevie Wonder, Smokey Robinson. One of my favorites, Bob Seger, working on the Night Moves. I mean, that's some epic. Eminem, 8 Mile, good movie. Eminem, not really my music, but an amazing artist, and that guy just keeps going. I think he's just a few years younger than me. Jack White of the White Stripes, along with Meg White. The White Stripes, I mean, that guy can play the guitar like there is no other. And a bunch of other, I mean, there's just, the artists go on and on. Big Sean, I mean, you can't not like a rapper with the name Big Sean. He even spells it S-E-A-N. So I know nothing about his music, but with a name like Big Sean, which happens to be mine, I always reference him because I think it's kind of funny. I was going to go to Coachella this year because I really wanted to see Rage Against the Machine. That was the headliner I wanted to see. Obviously, that got canceled. But Big Sean was the other artist that I kept telling everybody, yep, I'm going to go see Big Sean. And they're like, who's that? I'm like, I don't know, but it's Big Sean. Guy's got to be epic. He is also from Michigan. You know, when you Google famous musical artists in Google, you know who doesn't pop up? The Motor City Madman, Ted Nugent. Why is that? Well, got in a little trouble with the FBI a while back. I think he called President Barack Obama a mongrel. That did not go over well. Not go over well. Relative to the stuff that people call Donald Trump now, I think calling somebody a mongrel is pretty tame. And I'm not recommending you do that because I don't think you should call anybody in a political office a name at all, because that doesn't really accomplish anything. You're an idiot. What does that accomplish? Nothing. Ted Nugent did that. He's a very outspoken member of the NRA and Republican Party, and he's really politically affiliated. Says a lot of stuff I think it just doesn't need to be said. I disagree with some of it, but his guitar playing with Amboy Duke back in the day, phenomenal. And just Ted Nugent in general. I mean, he's such a crazy guy. Goes out there with his bow and just kills things. I don't know. He's a man's man. He's a guitarist, the Motor City Man. 10 Fingers of Doom, another one of his nicknames. We're going to jump into why Seattle is not the next Detroit. Seattle is the next Detroit. That's not how we roll. It's an article from John Towton. And in the picture, I'm looking at the picture on my browser, and it says a boarded up house, and the picture is of a house in Detroit, a boarded up house in Detroit's Brush Park neighborhood in 2014 with the General Motors headquarters at background left, From 2000 to 2010 alone, so in a 10-year period alone, the city lost about 250,000 residents. 250,000, down 250,000. That would, in Seattle, that would take us about a third of our population down. That's what's going on in Detroit. Not happening here in Seattle. Let's jump on in and let's see what we've got going on. But if you're watching this on YouTube, I would love to have you subscribe. Thank you so much for downloading on the podcast platform. We are growing exponentially. We just passed 4 million views on YouTube. And that's because you guys are watching. So thank you so much. I'm just going to keep going. As long as, a couple of people are paying attention, I'm probably just going to keep doing this because, it's pretty fun. And for some reason, people listen. I don't know. That just kind of surprises me, but whatever. We're just going to roll. 2 weeks ago, I wrote about the extinction level event facing Seattle small businesses, not just because of the pandemic, but because of City Hall's tolerance of crime. If you haven't been following along, City Hall, our mayor, our governor, and our city council members are doing nothing about a crime epidemic that's wiped out a lot of business in downtown Seattle to the point where they're like, I don't want to, as a business owner, I don't want to be there. I don't want to run space there. My customers are afraid. They're scared. We're not really doing this. We're not doing this. People are getting stabbed. They're getting shot in downtown Seattle, mainly along 3rd Avenue. Last week, we had another stabbing at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Imagine rush hour. You're just walking along. You're leaving your business. And this is on top of so many businesses not working in downtown, so you don't have that trickle-down effect of all the people walking around consuming stuff. So a lot of the small businesses are really suffering. On top of that, you got to watch out for some guy coming to mug you or stab you or shoot you. That's what happens. That's exactly what is happening in downtown Seattle. And along 3rd Avenue, it is a boarded up war wasteland. That's what you've got going on in Seattle. That's why a lot of people are talking about, it's Detroit. It's happening. All right, so City Hall's tolerance of crime, big contributor to this thing. It produced the largest response of any columns I've ever written, 99.9% in agreement that the city's tolerance of crime is doing it. It's not good. It's an extinction level event for Seattle. It was a nerve that needed to be touched, but I was surprised by the number of readers who took the leap, meaning they are going to take that and predict that Seattle would become another Detroit. A few others predicted our fate was to be Cleveland or Buffalo. None of those are a great option to become, are they? Detroit, Cleveland, or Buffalo? No, thank you. Pass. This destiny is not within the misguided and injurious powers of today's city political elite, meaning he's basically saying, the political leaders of Seattle are allowing this to happen. That's why guys like me who don't know really much about podcasting or anything along those lines can come on a medium and talk about this stuff, and people are eating it up because nobody's talking about the elephant in the room. The emperor has no clothes. I'm pointing it out. And you guys are listening. People are eating it up. Our subscriber base growing exponentially, and that's because, thank you, leaders of Seattle. You are making my job easy. I just get lobbed up these easy home runs day in and day out. I'm going to take it for as long as this run goes, and it's probably going to be a while. This destiny is not within the misguided and injurious powers of today's city political elite. However, backlashes and elections happen. Things happen. We're dealing with it right now. Detroit faced an unusual set of calamities to become synonymous with urban decline. Even Seattle's missteps won't compare. For a start, consider the current differences between Seattle and Detroit. Detroit suffered 275 murders last year, 2019, amid the highest level of violent crime in the nation. By contrast, Seattle had 28 murders. So 275 to 28. We had a tenth of the murders, almost exactly. Although the number is rising higher this year, thanks to CHOP and our political people just kind of letting things go. Yeah, we're still going to respond to crime, but unless it's already happened, guess what we're doing? Nothing. We're not doing anything. We're not really going to be proactive. We're not going to try and prevent the crime. In fact, we're going to defund the police. We're going to defund the special unit that takes care of sweeping out the homeless encampments until something really bad happens. And that's what will happen. We're going to allow CHOP, the Summer of Love, until people get murdered. We're going to allow that to happen. We're going to allow these peaceful protests that are in reality violent riots with looting to occur on a regular basis because we feel that this is a message that serves the general population of America well. Welcome to Seattle. Those are the lobs that I'm talking about. And for you, those of you on the podcast, I'm mimicking swinging a baseball bat or a golf club because those are some of the easiest things, ideology that you can take and go, well, this isn't hard to describe. Here's what we got going on. So Seattle business is struggling to deal with pandemic, all this other nonsense, and a crime wave happening. The 2018 median household income for Seattle was, call it 85,562. That's the median housing income, meaning half of that falls below, half of that falls over. Versus Detroit. What do you think Detroit's was, median income? 29,481. So let's call it, they've got a third of the income of Seattle, a third. And 29,000, I mean, that is not poverty level, but if you have a family, that is poverty level, no doubt about it. Even if your housing is a fraction of your overall, of what it is here, or if a fraction is not a huge percent like it is in Detroit, 29,000 to raise a family there, not a lot of money, just not a lot of wealth going on. But 85,000, yep, in Seattle, more money. Poverty stood at less than 12% here in Seattle versus more than 34% in Detroit. 34%, over 1 out of 3 people falling in that poverty level. Falling in or below. I know it's below the poverty line. I need to get those terms correct. Otherwise, people are going to let me know in the comments. But shh. August unemployment was 7.2% in King County versus 12.9% in Detroit's Wayne County. 7.2 King County versus 12.9. All right, those numbers aren't that far off. The Economic Innovation Group's 2018 Distressed Communities Index examined economic and social well-being metrics to the zip code level. Seattle's distress score was 14.5, compared with 97.9 for Detroit. But before the pandemic hit, Seattle had ascended to become one of America's superstar cities. Not only are the city and region home to 2 of the 5 big tech giants, Microsoft and Amazon, and high-end outposts of the others, but Seattle enjoys one of the most diverse economies in the nation. By contrast, Detroit was all about the auto industry, which has not gone well in recent years, and that is an understatement. Tech, on the other hand, other direction, going crazy. Amazon hiring literally, I think, 100,000 people this year. I don't know how many for this holiday season, but it's an incredible amount. And if you can't get a job in today's economy here in Seattle, you are not trying hard enough. I don't care what level you have of experience, but there are companies that will take you on for any level of jobs to get you going. All you got to do is show up and be a hard worker. That's what's going on here in Seattle. Now, I know Amazon has like a massive turnover for their entry-level like warehouse positions, but guess what? Not every job is one that you can work from home, sit around, and pretend you're really contributing. Some of the jobs out there, you actually have to put some effort into physically. I know that's a shocking concept, and I know what working hard physically is not where our younger generations want to be, but guess what? You can work your way up. You can work your way up into management. Maybe you take that management role and you do a lateral movement within your industry. I'm just throwing out ideas, concepts that might be foreign to some younger folks picking up on this podcast, but guess what? Get your foot in the door. I don't care what you're doing. Get going. And if you hustle and work hard and have a good work ethic and you don't steal from the company or do anything crazy to get you fired, you're going to move up because there aren't enough workers in the workplace right now to fulfill all the positions that are out there. I'm not saying you're going to make $100,000, Well, you're going to have a job. You're probably going to have some benefits. You're going to have a full-time job, and you're going to be able to keep working and expanding on your career, whatever that is. But you just need to get going to figure that out instead of sitting around going, man, my Xbox skills are exponentially developing here. My thumbs are so strong. And I know that whole unemployment thing. I shouldn't be doing it, but I am. Need to get off that. Get going. But you're probably not listening to this podcast, because who wants to listen to an old white dude babble on about business stuff? I don't know. You guys do. Thanks for tuning in. Perhaps the most astonishing marker of its decline is population. Last year, Seattle stood at 753,675 people. That's Seattle proper, Seattle address, while Detroit was 670,031 people. At its peak in 1950, Detroit was America's fifth most populous city with 1.85 million people. It was huge. It was almost triple Seattle. That's an incredible number. I had no idea Detroit was that big. I knew it was big, but I didn't realize it was almost 2 million people. That's a massive city. And now it is literally a third of its size. No wonder it's got issues. I mean, those are astronomical numbers. You take a city and decline it by 2/3, that's not going to be pretty. Current statistics and conditions aren't proof that Seattle isn't headed in the same direction as Detroit, of course. He's basically just covering his backside there. And Boeing moving all 787 assembly to South Carolina. Did a podcast on that. You can check that out, but trust me, could that land us in an aerospace rust belt? No, probably not. But such fears are a stretch, and history shows stark differences between the cities. The other thing that people always say is, Seattle's a boom or bust town. They've got their ups and they got their downs. Yeah, but everybody's always kind of like, look at Seattle. You guys are out there in Indian territory. You're gonna go down. You're gonna go down someday. Because Seattle is kind of a little bit of an outlier. People in professional sports don't like us because we're not East Coast. We're far West Coast, and we're so far West Coast that people confuse us with Washington, D.C. We're Washington. Why isn't that Washington, D.C.? Well, because that one's the District of Columbia. We're upper left, North Pacific Northwest. That's where we are, upper left USA. People often track the Motor City, there we go, Motor City madman, Ted Nugent, Motor City's decline to the 1967 riots, or uprising if you wish. 5 days of violence that left 43 dead. More than 2,500 businesses were looted or burned. Coleman Young, Detroit's first black mayor, 1974 to 1994, wrote, "The heaviest casualty, however, was the city. Detroit's losses went a hell of a lot deeper than the immediate toll of lives and buildings. The riot put Detroit on the fast track to economic desolation, mugging the city and making off with incalculable value in jobs, earnings taxes, corporate taxes, retail dollars, sales taxes, mortgages, interest, property taxes, development dollars, investment dollars, tourism dollars, and plain damn money." This is the Detroit mayor from 1974 to 1994. The money was carried out in the pockets of the businesses and the people who fled as fast as they could. I think Seattle's politicians need to hear that. They need to read that, because they have never, I bet you if you ask any one of those politicians, have you guys ever run a payroll? Have you guys ever run a business? Have you ever had to figure out profit margin or taxation? You know what my guess would be? No. That's why they don't realize, the people running the city of Seattle don't realize that the whole trickle-down effect of what they're doing by allowing the crime to happen is jobs, earning taxes, corporate taxes, retail dollars, sales taxes, mortgages, interest, property taxes, development dollars, investment dollars, tourism dollars, and plain damn money. Pretty good quote, isn't it? From a dude who ran Detroit for 20 years. Man, that must have been brutal. But the city's troubles long predated 1967. They can be traced to misguided federal and local government policies, as well as business decisions by the big three automakers. Racial discrimination, conflict, and redlining that kept blacks from buying homes in white neighborhoods had a long history, dating to the Great Migration of Southern blacks coming for jobs in Detroit factories. The effects were far more pervasive and long-standing than what happened in Seattle. what we've had in Seattle is our main black neighborhood is the Central District, and that has been overrun with gentrification. And so we've got a lot of longtime black residents basically complaining and saying, hey, we can no longer afford our neighborhood. But you haven't had what happened here in Seattle. You haven't had what happened in Detroit. Detroit, way worse, way worse. Starting in the 1950s, freeways were rammed through such black neighborhoods as Paradise Valley and Black Bottom, destroying hundreds of black-owned businesses and homes. The highways, along with federally subsidized mortgages for whites, facilitated white flight out of the city. The metropolitan area was still among the nation's largest at 4.3 million people. White flight. I've heard a lot of people reference white flight. We're getting out of this neighborhood because it's going down. The result, in 1950, the city was nearly 84% white. In 2019, it was nearly 79% black. Is that happening here in Seattle? No. So any comparisons to Seattle and Detroit? I mean, you've got the riots, you've got some crime going on, but it's not like it's a widespread across the board deal in Seattle. You've got widespread homelessness, you've got widespread opioid addiction, but the specific areas where the ongoing crime is concerned, a lot of that is in downtown Seattle. There is crime, of course, throughout Seattle. Seattle's a big city, and it's going to have big city problems. It is not, what's the Andy Griffith show, what was the name of that town? It's not whatever that town was, not Mayberry. Maybe it was Mayberry. I always reference Narnia out of the C.S. Lewis Chronicles, which is this mythical place that's just really great. But Seattle is not of the same level of Detroit. That's the bottom line. It's economics, and that's what I always tell people is look at the economic difference between Detroit and Seattle. Car makers versus tech and computer stuff. Wildly different. One business going down the tube, the other business really just ramping up here in 2020. I mean, really ramping up. That's why you've got Facebook buying a headquarters from REI that wasn't even finished this summer, and Facebook said, was it $387 million? Yep, we'll take it. No problem. Because we're going to put in a whole bunch of tech workers, even though the Rona's going on and nobody's really doing the office space thing. We're betting on the future, and the future is Seattle in tech. Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook. The list just goes on and on and on. Is that stuff going away? You might say some of those businesses are going away. Yeah, individual businesses. Maybe we have an emphasis on other businesses as they start to come up. But is the whole tech worker job pool, the employment pool here in Seattle is pretty incredible. And that's why people want to live here. And in comparison to Silicon Valley, in comparison to California, our housing here in Seattle, even though it's expensive, is still cheap relative to other markets. And I keep saying that, and everybody's like, oh, Seattle's so expensive. It is, but when you look at other cities that have the same job pool as we do, it's a bargain. And that's why Seattle's still got a run left. A lot of people have been saying for 25 years, most of my adult career, Seattle's going to have a big correction. Seattle's going to have just a massive correction. I've been hearing that my whole entire adult life. Seattle's ready for its correction. Well, we've been on this massive super cycle run, and based on economics, I don't see that turning around anytime soon. I just don't. Employers come here because they want to poach the employees of other successful companies. Let's be honest. That's what's going on. Are you having that in Detroit? No, unfortunately not. And that's why they've got the economic situation they have been chasing the dying auto industry that is known as the U.S. auto industry, whereas here in Seattle, we are chasing a tech industry that is worldwide. Companies from all over the world come here, set up shop, because you've got people here that are workers, that know what they're doing, programmers, whatever. We've got whole just systems of people set up that are, you no longer have to go into the office with the Rona. We know that. But guess what? Headquarters are still here. and people are going to go back to headquarters after we get a vaccine, after all this stuff. Maybe they work Friday from home. Maybe they work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or all at home days. Maybe so, because we've proven we can do the work at home thing. But making cars in Detroit, there's no working from home. Not going to happen. Got to be in that factory. And guess what? Those factories, they have been on the decline for years and years and years as those jobs get outsourced to China, to other parts of the world where it's cheaper. That's what we got going on. So is Seattle the next Detroit? No. But Seattle does have some pretty cool music, kind of like Detroit. I mean, some of the music that's come out of Seattle, Jimi Hendrix, I mean, he's just one small example. You've got Nirvana. You've got an entire grunge generation where everybody's like, yeah, the Seattle music scene. It's pretty cool. Seattle's still a pretty cool place. You might complain about the crime, and if you're a business in downtown Seattle, you need to be complaining to your local politicians, because that's what? They are not only not doing their job, they are not doing anything. Nothing going on. That's why we're recalling some of our Seattle City Council members. That's ongoing. The recall effort to get our mayor out, that just folded, not happening. But there's still a lot can be done to let your local politicians know so that Seattle isn't looked at like a lot of the comments I get on YouTube are like, man, keep your Seattle issues in Seattle. Don't let them come over to my place, wherever my place is people are always saying, don't let that happen here. Don't blame you. It's not good. It's not a good scene, but it's not Detroit. That's the bottom line. And I think people need to understand from a fundamental economic level, Seattle is wildly different than Detroit. Yeah, you got a couple of similarities in there, but by and large, Seattle, go in a different direction. And that's why, as the host of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast, I will keep you updated as these trends continue or don't continue or change or whatever. I'm Sean Reynolds from Summit Properties Northwest, Reynolds & Kline Appraisal. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when our next video is out.